Hello, how is everyone doing tonight? Tonight we are going to practice some different ways to use the word turn. There will be turn in some expressions and turn in some phrasal verbs, and we're going to practice how to use them. And if you're watching this live with me tonight, then I encourage you, if you have questions, to ask them in the comments or in the chat. All right, so let's get started. And already I found my first mistake for the night. I forgot to prepare the list on screen, but I would like you to see that as we talk about them. So before we start, let me just bring up the first phrasal verb that we're going to talk about, which is turn against. Here we go. Turn against. This phrasal verb, turn against, means betray or to change your loyalty to someone or something. Maybe it could be an institution. Let's practice using it in a sentence to see how we can use turn against. Here is a situation. After the scandal, the famous actor lost many fans. A scandal is an event that happens that offends people or makes people angry. And so, if a celebrity, a famous person does something and it makes people angry or offends them, we can call that a scandal. So that is our situation, that the fans decided not to be fans anymore. First, they were loyal to the actor, but then the actor did something that offended them and made them angry. He did a scandal. And now the fans have turned against the actor. They have betrayed him. They have changed their loyalty. They're no longer loyal to him. The fans turned against the actor. Let's make a when question with that sentence. When? When did the fans turn against? When did the fans turn against the actor? That means, when did they change their loyalty? When did they stop supporting him? When did they start supporting someone else? When did they turn against the actor? And the answer is after the scandal. All right, so they turned against the actor after the scandal. Okay, but we're not stopping there. We're going to do something else with this sentence, all right? So we have the fans turned against the actor after his scandal. Now let's make a tag question. A tag question, it's a little question at the end of a sentence to ask for agreement. Like, don't you agree with me? Don't you think don't you think in the same way? Isn't he, isn't she, aren't they? That's a tag question. And they're kind of hard to do, but they're very common. People do them all the time. Do you agree with me? Do you agree with my idea? That's really what it is. All right, so let's see. We've got they turned against him after the scandal. How would you make a tag question? How would you make one of those questions that means, do you agree with me? Is that true? Well, because they turned against him is in the affirmative, the tag question will be in the negative. Didn't they? Didn't they? They turned against him. Didn't they? They turned against him, didn't they? Isn't that right? Don't you agree? Is that the right thing? All right, now another tricky thing about tag questions is how do you answer them? That's confusing to people. To answer a tag question, you have to agree or disagree with the original idea, not the question. Did he? Didn't she? You don't agree with that. You agree with the original idea. So if I say they turned against him because of the scandal, didn't they? How would you agree with me? How would you say, yes, that's true. Your idea is right. You would repeat my original idea. Yes, they did. They turned against him after the scandal, didn't they? Yes, they did. You're right. That's true. How would you answer, no, you're wrong? Let's say they turned against him after the scandal, didn't they? And you want to tell me, no, that's not correct. Your idea is not correct. Because I said they turned against him, you have to say the opposite. No, they didn't turn against him. No, they didn't. No, they didn't. You're wrong. They turned against him, didn't they? No, they didn't. You're wrong. You're wrong about that. Your idea is wrong. It's a little confusing. It takes some practice. It's risky making videos about these because it's so painfully confusing to think about this. You might run away. Let's try another example. So first we'll practice using turn against, but then we'll practice making a tag question. Here is a situation. Mary is in a meeting with several people. Mike is on her team, and he always agrees with her. During the meeting, Mary made a proposal. But Mike said it was a bad idea. Okay, in this case, Mike has changed his loyalties because he and Mary are on the same team. But now he's going against her. So we can say he turned against Mary. He turned against her. He turned against her. He turned against her during the meeting. He changed his loyalties. Let's make a why question. Why? Why did he? Why did he? Why did he? Why did he turn against her? Why did he change his loyalties to someone else or to some other idea? Why did he turn against her? Against her. Why did he turn? Why did he turn against her? Against her. Why did he turn against her? Why did he betray her? Why did he turn against her during the meeting? And here's the answer. Because he didn't like her idea. He turned against her. He turned against her. He turned against her because. He turned against her because he. Because he. He turned against her because he. He turned against her because he didn't like her idea. He turned against her because he didn't like her idea. Now you could say he disagreed with her. You could just say disagree if you want. But when you say turn against, that has the idea of betrayal, like he was supposed to be a loyal friend to her, but instead he chose something else. He changed his loyalties. He changed sides. He turned against her. So it's more personal when you say someone turned against you. You're taking it personally. It isn't just that there's a bad idea. It's that maybe he doesn't like her anymore. They're enemies now when they used to be friends. He turned against her. Now, let's take that idea. He didn't like her opinion. He didn't like her idea. Let's take that sentence. He didn't like her idea. If I say to someone, he didn't like her idea, how would you make a question at the end of that statement that means, do you agree with my opinion? He didn't like her idea. Now we have to make a tag question. Our sentence is negative. He didn't like her idea. So our tag question must be affirmative. Did he? Did he? Did he? Did he? Did he? Sounds like that. Did he? He didn't like her idea, did he? He didn't like her. He didn't like her. He didn't like her idea. Did he? Did he? He didn't like her idea. Did he? And that means, do you agree with that? That's my opinion. He didn't like her idea. What do you think? He didn't like her idea, did he? Now, what if you agree with my question, with my idea? He didn't like her idea. What if you... I should have chosen different words. What if you agree with my opinion? He didn't like her idea. How would you answer yes to that? He didn't like her idea, did he? If you agree with me, you repeat my original idea. You're right, that's true. He didn't like her idea. No, he didn't. So if you agree with me, you say no. That's the confusing part. He didn't like her idea, did he? Repeat my original opinion if you agree. He didn't. You're right. He didn't like her. I agree with you. He didn't like her. No, he didn't like her. He didn't like her idea. No, he didn't like her idea. Okay, but now let's see if you disagree with me. If I say to you, if I give you my opinion, he didn't like her idea, did he? And you want to disagree, then you have to do the opposite of my original opinion. My original opinion is he didn't like her idea. So when you answer, you have to say the opposite. You have to say the affirmative. Yes, he liked her idea. What are you talking about? Are you crazy? Yes, yes, he did. Yes, he did like her idea. He didn't like her idea, did he? Yes, yes, he did like her idea. You're wrong about that. I disagree with you. It's a little confusing to do that. All right, so he turned against her because he didn't like her idea. He didn't like her idea, did he? Yes, he did like her idea. You're crazy. All right. Now let's take a look at our next way to use turn. And this is not a phrasal verb, though. This is an expression. Let me put it up here. Okay, look at this. Oh, that doesn't fit. Let me shrink it a little bit. A turn for the better, a turn for the worse. And you use this expression, a turn for the better or a turn for the worse, which means something is improving. That's a turn for the better. And a turn for the worse is when something is becoming worse. It's used a lot when talking about health. It's used in business for situations in business. It's also used for relationships. If things are getting better, they are taking, actually you use the word take with this, the verb take. They're taking a turn for the better or taking, and if things are going downhill, going bad, you say things are taking a turn for the worse. Let's practice how to use this in a situation. Here's the situation. The weather is very nice, so John and Mary went for a walk in the park. However, they decided very soon to go home. Let's make a why decide to go home question. Why? Why did they? Why did they? Why did they decide? Why did they decide to go? Why did they decide to go home? Why did they decide to go home? And here's the answer. The weather changed from good to bad. So it's changing. It was good when they left, but as they were walking, it started going bad. We can say the weather took a turn for the worse. The weather took a turn for the worse, and that means it's going from good to bad. Unexpectedly, the weather took a turn for the worse. Took a turn for the. Took a turn for the. The weather took a turn for the worse. Now, here's another sentence related to that situation. They should check the weather forecast. If you say they should check the weather forecast, using should, you're either talking about now or you're making some kind of recommendation for the future. But how can we change that into the past? How can you say they should check in the past? Do you know how to do that? They should have. They should have checked. They should have checked the weather. They should have checked the weather forecast. They should have. That's a very common thing to say. They should have whatever. Should have checked, should have gone, should have seen. And when people are talking, this is not a contraction that you can write, but when people are talking, it sounds like this. Should have. They should have checked. They should have checked the weather forecast. And in very conversational speech, it sounds like this. Shoulda. They should have checked. They should have checked the weather forecast. Now let's make a tag question with this sentence. This is going to be really hard. They should have checked. They should have checked the weather forecast. How would you make that little question at the end that means, here's my opinion, here's my observation. Do you agree with me? It's going to be a little bit hard. Let's start with the present. They should check. They should check. Let's try it in the present first. They should check the weather forecast. How would you make that little question? This is in the affirmative. They should check. So how would you make a do you agree with me question? They should check. Shouldn't they? The idea is in the affirmative. Let's make the question in the negative. They should check. Shouldn't they? Let's change it to past now. They should have checked. They should have checked. Shouldn't they have? They should have checked. Shouldn't they have? Shouldn't they have? That's how it sounds when people are talking. Shouldn't they have? They should have checked. Shouldn't they have? Let's be really lazy and say they should have checked. Shouldn't they have? They should have checked. Shouldn't they have? Okay. How would you agree with me? My opinion is they should have checked the weather forecast before leaving. You agree. You say, I agree. How will you do that if I say, shouldn't they have? They should have checked. Shouldn't they have? You repeat my original idea. You say, yes, they should have. Yes, they should. Yes, they should have. Yes, they should have. Yes, they should have. That's how you agree with me. You're right. They should have checked. Yes, they should have checked. They should have checked. Shouldn't they have? Yes, they should have. You're right. You're right. They should have. All right. Now, what if you don't agree with me? For some reason, you think that's a bad idea. They should have checked the weather forecast before they left. Shouldn't they have? Tell me I'm wrong. No, that's wrong. If my original idea is affirmative, they should have checked, then you should say it in the negative to tell me I'm wrong. No. No, they shouldn't. No, they shouldn't have. No, they shouldn't have. No, they shouldn't have. No, they shouldn't have. Oh, that sounds, there's so many different ways that could be pronounced. It's so, no wonder why it's difficult to understand English when people are talking. You could say, no, they shouldn't have, which is very nice English. You could say, no, they shouldn't have, which is a little bit not as nice, but still okay. And you could be really bad and say, no, they shouldn't have, which is very common. That's probably how I do it when I'm talking to people. Or you can use, you don't need the T. The T is optional. No, they shouldn't have. No, they shouldn't have. So many ways you can say that. They should have checked the weather forecast because the weather took a turn for the worse. They should have checked. They should have checked the weather forecast because the weather took a turn for the worse. The weather went from good to bad. It changed from good to bad. It took a turn for the worse. Let's try using take a turn for the better, which means something improves unexpectedly. Here's a situation. Mary was in the hospital. Her friends and family were worried about her, but then they received good news. Her health suddenly, unexpectedly improved. Because her health is going from bad to good unexpectedly, we can say take a turn for the better. Her health took a turn for the better. Her health took a turn for the better. Let's make a how question. How her health take turn for better. How would you do that? How will you make a how question? How did her health take a turn? How did her health take a turn for the better? How did her health take a turn for the better? When we ask a how question, meaning to explain to me the process, explain to me how this happens, a lot of times you can use the preposition by plus an ing verb to answer that question. So if we say, how did her health take a turn for the better, and we want to explain the process, we can say by, that's a preposition by listening, ing verb, listening, by listening to her doctor. By listening to her doctor. How did her health take a turn for the better? By listening to her doctor, to her doctor, to her doctor, by listening to her doctor. Her health took a turn for the better by listening to her doctor. Now let's make a suggestion with should. She should eat better. She should eat better. That's our advice, our suggestion. But if we say she should eat better, we are talking about either now or we are making a recommendation for the future. But what if we want to say, in the past, she was wrong. In the past, she was bad. She didn't eat better. That was bad of her. How will you change should into the past? What do you do to make should into the past? She should have. She should have eaten. She should have eaten. She should have eaten better. She should have eaten better. That's why she was sick. She didn't eat very well in the past. She should have eaten better. But of course, when people are talking, they say should have eaten. Instead of should have, it sounds like should have. She should have eaten better. Or they can be very lazy and say shoulda. She should have eaten better. She should have eaten better. How will you make a do you agree with my opinion question? If the original sentence is she should have eaten better, then the do you agree with me question should be negative. Shouldn't she? She should have eaten better. Shouldn't she have? She should have eaten better. Shouldn't she have? She should have eaten better. Shouldn't she have? Okay, now what if you agree with me? How will you say that's true? You're right. Well, because if you want to agree with me, you repeat my original idea. She should have eaten better. You're right. She should have. That's true. She should have eaten better. She should have eaten better. Shouldn't she have? Yes, you're true. That's true. You're right. She should have. Yes, she should have. Yes, she should have. Yes, she should have. All right. What if you disagree with me? How will you disagree with me? She should have eaten better. Shouldn't she have? If you want to disagree with me, you have to say the opposite of my original idea. My original idea is she should have eaten better. So you have to say the negative. No, she shouldn't have. You're wrong about that. She shouldn't have. She should have eaten better. Shouldn't she have? No, she shouldn't have. No, she shouldn't have. No, she shouldn't have. No, she shouldn't have. Okay, let's see. All of Mary's friends were happy when they were at the hospital because she had taken a turn for the better. Her health had taken a turn for the better. Her health changed from bad to good. It took a turn for the better. All right. Now let's move on to our next turn phrase. Let me just enter it here. Whoops. And this is a phrase, I don't know which way to turn. It could be anybody. He doesn't know which way to turn. She doesn't know which way to turn. This is a useful phrase when you are in a confusing or difficult situation and there are many options to choose from and you don't know which option to choose. It's very literal because you're doing this. What should I do? What should I do? That means I don't know which way to turn. It's a very common expression. It means you're confused. You don't know what the next action should be. You don't know what option to choose. You're confused. All right, here's the situation. John is having a very bad time. He lost his job. He has to move out of his apartment. He doesn't have a car anymore. It is a very difficult time for him. He doesn't know where to get help. He doesn't know which step should be the first step to make things better. Another way to say this is he doesn't know which way to turn. He's just standing there saying, what do I do? What should I do? This is crazy. All right. Where are we? He doesn't know which way to turn. He's very confused and in trouble. How would you make a what John should do question? What should he what should he do? What should he do? What should he do if he what should he do if he what should he do if he doesn't know? What should he do if he doesn't know which way? What should he do if he doesn't know which way to turn? What should he do if he doesn't know which way to turn? Here's our recommendation. This time we'll use could. He could ask advice from a friend. He could ask advice from a friend. He could ask advice from a friend. This is our recommendation. How can we make a question at the end of the sentence that means, do you agree with my advice? He could ask advice from a friend. Since that's in the affirmative, our do you agree with me question should be in the negative. Couldn't he? Couldn't he? Couldn't he? Couldn't he? Couldn't he? You'll hear all of those. They sound different, but they're all very possible. He could ask advice from a friend. Couldn't he? Couldn't he? Couldn't he? What if you agree with me? How will you answer? That's correct. I agree with you. He could ask advice from a friend. Couldn't he? If you agree with me, repeat my original idea. That's true. You're right. He could. He could ask for a friend. He could ask advice. You're right. He could. Yes, he could. That's how you agree with one of those questions. He could ask advice from a friend. Couldn't he? He could. You're right. He could. Okay, here's the same sentence. He could ask advice from a friend. Couldn't he? How do you disagree with me? How do you tell me you're wrong? That's not true. That's a bad idea. He could agree with a friend. Couldn't he? My original idea is in the affirmative, so you have to answer in the negative. You have to answer in the opposite way. No, you're wrong. He couldn't. He couldn't ask advice. No, he couldn't ask advice from a friend. You're wrong about that. He could ask advice from a friend, couldn't he? No, you're wrong. He couldn't. That's not true. No, he couldn't. No, he couldn't. No, you're wrong. He couldn't. Okay, let's try another example using knowing which way to turn, which means being in a bad situation, not knowing what to do next. Lisa is working on a big project at work, and it is very complicated. There are many problems to solve. She doesn't know where to start, or which step to take first. Mary's having a difficult time with her project. She doesn't know which way to turn. So she has this complicated project, and you can imagine her thinking, what do I do? What do I do? That's what it means when you say, I don't know which way to turn. She doesn't know which way to turn. Let's make a what Mary should do question. What should she do? What should she do? What should Mary do if she doesn't know? What should she do if she doesn't know which way? What should she do if she doesn't know which way to turn? Here is our advice. Let's use could again. She could consult. She could consult her boss. Consult her boss. Consult her boss. She could consult her boss. That's our opinion. That's our advice. She could consult her boss. She could consult her boss. How will you make a question at the end of that sentence that means, do you agree with my idea? If the original idea is she could consult with her boss, that's affirmative. So if we want to make this, do you agree with my idea question, we have to use the negative. Couldn't she? She could consult with her boss, couldn't she? That means she could consult with her boss. Don't you think so? Don't you agree with me? How do you agree with me? If I ask you that question, she could consult with her boss, couldn't she? How would you say, that's true, I agree with you? In order to agree, you should repeat the original idea. She could. Yes, she could. You're right. She could. Yes, she could. She could consult with her boss, couldn't she? Yes, she could. So if you agree with me, you just repeat the original idea. Ignore the question at the end and repeat the original idea. What if you disagree with me? If I say she could consult with her boss, couldn't she? And you want to tell me, oh, that's not true, you're wrong, or that's a bad idea. How would you answer then? Because my original idea is she could, then your answer should be she couldn't. No, you're wrong about that. She couldn't. She couldn't consult with her boss. That's not true. She could consult with her boss, couldn't she? No, she couldn't. No, she couldn't. All right, let's move on to our next expression using turn. Let me just change the text here. And that expression is to turn as red as a beet. If you don't know what a beet is, let's find a beet. Oh wait, I didn't want to do the expression. I wanted to show you a picture of a beet. Here's a beet. I don't know if you recognize that. These are beets. So to turn red as a beet is an expression that you use when somebody is embarrassed and they blush. Blushing is when your face turns red because you're embarrassed or ashamed. Let's take a look at somebody blushing. Oh, these are not very good pictures of people blushing. Well, you see the embarrassed emoji. That's blushing. Now, this girl looks like she's blushing a little bit. Her face is turning red. Well, you get the idea. Blushing. That's what happens when you're ashamed or you're embarrassed. All right, so turning as red as a beet is what you say when somebody is blushing because they're embarrassed. I don't know why my face always looks red as a beet. Okay, let's see. So let's get to our example here. Here's a situation. Lisa is having a job interview, and the person interviewing her showed her that she had many mistakes on her CV or her resume. That's pretty much the same thing. CV, resume. So imagine you're going to a job interview and you give the interviewer your CV, your resume, and you have many mistakes. And the interviewer says, look at all these mistakes. And you say, oh, I'm so embarrassed. So let's say, because she was extremely embarrassed, she turned as red as a beet. She turned as red as a beet. Let's make a what happened question. What happened? What happened when? What happened when the interviewer? What happened when the interviewer pointed out? What happened when the interviewer pointed out the mistakes on her resume? And point out is a phrasal verb. It means to show someone something. You have a lot of things in one area, and then you point your finger at one thing and you say, hey, look at this. That's pointing something out. What happened when the interviewer pointed out the mistakes on her resume? And here's the answer. Lisa turned as red as a beet. She turned as red as a beet because she was embarrassed and ashamed. She turned as red as a beet when the interviewer pointed out the mistakes on her resume. Let's make a what Lisa should do question. What should she? What should she do? Now, let's change it into the past. So should do, that's asking about what do now or what do in the future. But we want to know what should do in the past. It's too late now. The situation is finished. What should she have done? 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 You'll hear all of those, unfortunately. What should she have done? It's pretty common, unfortunately. What should she have done? What should she have done? What should she have done? Here's the answer. She should have double-checked. She should have double-checked her resume. She should have double-checked her resume. She should have double-checked her resume. Double-checked her resume. She should have double-checked her resume before the interview. How can you put a little question at the end of that? Meaning, do you agree with my opinion? Do you agree with what I think about this situation? The original idea is she should have checked. It's affirmative. That means if you want to make that little do you agree with me question, it should be in the negative. She should have checked. Shouldn't she have? She should have checked. Shouldn't she have? She should have checked. Shouldn't she have? She should have double-checked before the interview. Shouldn't she have? I don't like shouldn't she have. You can say it if you want. Shouldn't she have? Shouldn't she have? But I think shouldn't she have is as far as you should go with that. She should have double-checked her resume. Shouldn't she have? Shouldn't she have? Okay, how do you agree with my idea? That's my opinion. She should have checked her resume. How do you agree? How do you tell me you're right? That's true. I agree with you. You repeat my original idea. She should have double-checked her resume before the interview. Shouldn't she have? Repeat the original idea. Yes, she should have. Yes, she should have double-checked. Yes, she should have. Yes, she should have. What if you disagree with me? How do you tell me I'm wrong? That's not true. You're wrong about that. She should have double-checked before the interview. Tell me you're wrong. If I say she should have double-checked, that's in the affirmative. If you want to tell me I'm wrong, say the opposite. Say the negative. No, she shouldn't have. No, she should have double-checked. Shouldn't she have? No, she shouldn't have. You're wrong. No, she shouldn't have. No, she shouldn't have. No, she shouldn't have. No, she shouldn't have double-checked. All right, I'm just waiting for the information to come up. I have these in notes, but it's going very slowly. Does this make it go faster? Okay. Let's see. Here's another example, using turn as read as a beat. John is a very shy person. John is a very shy person. But his teacher was very proud of the work that he did, and so in front of the entire class, he congratulated John on his wonderful work. This was so embarrassing for John because he's shy. What happened to John? Let's see. Where are we going with this? I forgot what I put here. Okay. So John was very embarrassed and his face turned very red. And we can say his face turned as red as a beet. His face turned as red as a beet. How will you make... But let's go back to that situation where the teacher congratulated him, making him embarrassed, and he turned as red as a beet. And let's make a what John should do question. What should John do? What should John do? But let's make it in the past, because if you say what should John do, you're asking a question about what action now or what action in the future is good. But we want to know about in the past. What should he have done? What should he have done? Oh wow, this is hard. What should he What should he have? What should he have? What should he have? What should he have done? What should he have done? That's pretty common, unfortunately. So it goes from what should he have done, but when you're talking to people, a lot of times, most of the time, it will probably sound like, what should he have done? It's crazy. How are you supposed to understand that? What should he have done? But it's normal. Okay. The answer is he should have thanked the teacher. He didn't thank the teacher. He turned as red as a beet. But he should have thanked the teacher. He should have thanked. He should have thanked the teacher. He shouldn't have turned as red as a beet. He should have thanked the teacher. He should have said thank you. Okay, that's my opinion. He should have said thank you. How will you ask, do you agree with me? Do you think that's a good idea? He should have said thank you. If the idea is in the affirmative, he should have said thank you. Then when you make the do you agree with me question at the end, you should make that negative. Shouldn't he? Shouldn't he have? Shouldn't he have? He should have said thank you. Shouldn't he have? He should have said thank you. Shouldn't he have? He should have said thank you. Shouldn't he have? How will you agree with that? If you wanted to agree with me and say, you're right, I think that's true. He should have said thank you. You repeat the original idea. He should have said thank you. Shouldn't he have? Yes, he should have. You're right. You repeat the first part. You repeat the original idea. He should have said thank you. Shouldn't he have? Yes, he should have. He should have. He should have. Now here's the same sentence. He should have said thank you. Shouldn't he have? What if you disagree with me? What if you want to tell me you're wrong? That's not true. I don't agree with you. He should have said thank you. Shouldn't he have? Because the original idea is he should have said thank you, if you want to disagree, if you want to tell me you're wrong, say the negative. Say the opposite. No, he shouldn't have. I disagree. He shouldn't have said thank you. He shouldn't have said thank you. He shouldn't have said thank you. No, he shouldn't have. No, he shouldn't have. No, he shouldn't have. He should have said thank you, shouldn't he have? No, he shouldn't have. All right, so he turned as red as a beet when the teacher congratulated him, but he should have said thank you, shouldn't he have? Yes, he should have. Yes, he should have. I agree with you. He should have said thank you. All right, let's move on to our next turn phrase. Let me just bring it up here. And that is tossing and turning. Tossing and turning. Now, toss is a word for throw. This is tossing. Tossing is like a soft throw. But when you combine it with turn, toss and turn, this is somebody who has trouble sleeping. Tossing and turning. Did you ever lie in your bed at night going, oh no, oh. That's tossing and turning. Tossing is like throwing. And then you have the literal turning. And we use this when you're having trouble sleeping because something is bothering you. Let's see how we can use it in a sentence. Here is a situation. Mary is trying to sleep, but she is uncomfortable. So she moves this way and she moves that way while she's trying to sleep. She doesn't really sleep. She can't sleep. We can say she was tossing and turning all night. There could be a million reasons why. We'll explain in a minute. But if somebody asks you, oh, did you have a nice sleep? You can say, no, I was tossing and turning. And that means you were uncomfortable and you couldn't sleep. For some reason, something was preventing you from sleeping. But now let's ask a why question with she was tossing and turning all night. Why? Why was she? Why was she tossing and turning all night? Which means, why couldn't she sleep? And here's the answer. The hotel bed was very uncomfortable. The hotel bed was very uncomfortable. She was tossing and turning all night because the hotel bed was very uncomfortable. All right, now let's give some advice. Let's practice giving some advice in this situation. We'll use could. She could reserve a more expensive hotel room. She could reserve a more expensive hotel room. Now with this advice, we're either talking about now or in the future, but what we really have to do is shake our finger at Mary and tell her what she did wrong. It's too late. The problem already happened, but we can tell her she was bad for doing the wrong thing. How do you change she could reserve a more expensive hotel room into the past? She could have. She could have. She could have. She could have reserved a more expensive hotel room. She could have reserved a more expensive hotel room. So that's our advice. That's our suggestion. How can you put a little question at the end of that suggestion, which means, do you agree with me? If the original idea is she could have reserved, then the question, the do you agree with me question, should be couldn't she? Couldn't she have? She could have reserved a more expensive hotel room. Couldn't she have? Couldn't she have? Couldn't she have? She could have reserved a more expensive hotel room. Couldn't she have? Okay. What if you agree with that? What if you think that's the right solution? Or you think that's a good way of solving the problem? Then you must repeat my original idea. Yes, she could have. If I say she could have, couldn't she have, and you agree, you say yes, she could have. That's true. Yes, she could have. Yes, you're right. She could have. She could have reserved a more expensive hotel room, couldn't she have? Yes, she could have. You're right. I agree with you. That's true. Okay, now let's try the same situation, the same idea. She could have reserved a more expensive hotel room, couldn't she have? But now let's disagree with that. How would you tell me, that's not true, you're wrong, that was not possible? To disagree, you say the opposite of my original idea. No, she could not have. She could have reserved a more expensive hotel room. No, she couldn't have. No, that's not true. She couldn't have. She could have reserved a more expensive hotel room. Couldn't she have? No, she couldn't have. That's not true. I don't agree with you. No, she couldn't have. All right, let's see here. I'm trying to make this go faster. I'm talking fast. I'm reading the exercise, but I'm going faster than the words on the screen. So I have to wait for it to catch up. Okay, so we've got, she spent all night tossing and turning, meaning she couldn't sleep. She was very uncomfortable. Something was stopping her from sleeping. In this case, it was very literal. It was the mattress. It was physical. She spent all night tossing and turning. But she could have reserved a more expensive hotel room. Couldn't she have? Yes, she could have. Yes, she could have. Yes, she could have. All right, let's try another example using tossing and turning. She spent all night... Oh, wait, that's done. Wait a minute. I don't know why that's repeating. Here's another situation. John is graduating from high school next year. He has to go to college, but he doesn't know what to study. It's really important for him to pick the right career. He doesn't want to change careers in the middle of his life. He thinks about it at night, and when he's trying to go to sleep, this problem comes to his head, and he starts thinking about it, and it prevents him, it stops him from sleeping. It makes it difficult to sleep. He's so worried about, what do I study in school? I don't know. It makes it difficult to sleep. So you can imagine, what should I do? What should I do? Tossing and turning in his sleep, or tossing and turning in his bed. It means he's having something is preventing him or making it difficult for him to sleep. We can just say he's tossing and turning. We don't even have to say in bed. We understand what that means. Let's make a why question. So we have, he tosses and turns at night about choosing a career. Let's make a why question with tosses and turns at night. Why does? Why does he? Why does he? Why does he toss and turn? Toss and turn. Toss and turn. Why does he toss and turn? Why does he toss and turn at night? And here's the reason. Choosing the right career is a big step in his life. So he's worried about it. It makes him worried, and that's what he thinks about instead of sleeping. He tosses and turns at night. He tosses and turns at night because choosing the right career is a big step in life. Now let's give some advice with this information. Okay? He could see a career counselor. He could see a career counselor. That's our advice to him. Now, if we're offering that advice or mentioning that advice, what little question can you put at the back of this, which means, do you agree with me? He could see a career counselor. Couldn't he? Couldn't he? Because the original idea is in the negative, when you make the do you agree with me question, you have to use, because the original idea is in the affirmative, when you make the do you agree with me question, you have to use the negative. You have to say, couldn't he? Couldn't he? Couldn't he? He could see a career counselor, couldn't he? Now, if you agree with me, if you want to tell me that's true, you're right, I agree with you, then you repeat my original idea. My original idea is he could see a career counselor. So you say, yes, he could. Yes, yes, he could. He could see a career counselor, couldn't he? I agree. Yes, he could. That's true. He could. Okay, now let's use the same advice. He could see a career counselor, couldn't he? And how do you tell me you're wrong? That's not true. I disagree. You have to say the opposite of the original idea. The original idea is he could see. So you have to say the opposite. You have to say the negative. He couldn't. No, he couldn't. You're wrong. He couldn't see a career counselor. He could see a career counselor, couldn't he? No. No, he couldn't. You're wrong. That's wrong. No, he couldn't see a career counselor. All right, I'm just waiting for the words to come up. Okay, he tosses and turns all night because he doesn't know which career to choose. But he could see a career counselor, couldn't he? Yeah, he could. You're right. That's true. Alrighty, let's move on to our next turn phrase. This is a phrasal verb. Let me just change the words up here. And that is the phrasal verb to turn up. Now, phrasal verbs can, whenever you see a phrasal verb, it almost never means only one thing. Frequently, it means 2 or 3 different things, depending on the context. Turn up, you probably know, meaning to increase the level of something, but also another very common and useful way to use turn up means to appear. When something appears, when something is a surprise, it appears as a surprise. Let's practice using turn up, meaning it appears as a surprise. Here is a situation. Mike was very frustrated because he lost his keys. He couldn't find his keys anywhere. He even stopped looking for them. He gave up. Okay, but then by magic, they appeared. on the bathroom floor. His keys by magic appeared on the bathroom floor. This is when you could say turn up. His keys turned up on the bathroom floor. That means they suddenly appeared. They weren't there before, or he didn't see them. Obviously, it wasn't magic. Okay, let's make a what Mike should do question. Okay, so what should Mike do? What should Mike do to avoid? What should Mike do to avoid? What should he do? What should he do to? What should he do to? What should he do to avoid losing his keys? What should he do to avoid losing his keys in the future? Okay, and the answer is he should always put them in the same place. That's our advice. He should always put the keys in the same place. He should always put them in the same place. How would you put a little question at the end of that? Meaning, do you agree with me? He should put the keys in the same place. He should always put the keys in the same place. Do you agree with me? If our suggestion is he should, then our do you agree with me question should be shouldn't he? Don't you think so? Shouldn't he? He should put his keys in the same place. Shouldn't he? Shouldn't he? Shouldn't he? Shouldn't he? He should put his keys in the same place, shouldn't he? Don't you think I'm right? Okay, how would you agree with that? If I tell you he should put his keys in the same place, shouldn't he? Do you agree with me? How do you say that's true? I agree with you. You have to repeat my original idea. My original idea is he should always put the keys in the same place. So if you agree, you say, yes, he should. Yes, I agree, he should. He should put the keys in the same place, shouldn't he? Yes, he should. That's true. I agree with you. Yes, he should. Yes, he should. Okay, now let's take that same idea. He should always put the keys in the same place. And how do you disagree with that? How will you tell me you're wrong? That's not true. I don't agree with you. No, he shouldn't. Because I said he should put the keys, you have to say the opposite of the original idea. Tell me the negative. He should put the keys in the same place. No, he shouldn't. No, he shouldn't. He should put the keys in the same place, shouldn't he? No, he shouldn't. That's not true. I don't agree with you. In order to avoid losing his keys in the future, he should always put his keys in the same place, shouldn't he? Yes, he should. I agree with you. Yes, because we don't want his keys to appear, to turn up in the wrong place or in weird places. We don't want his keys to turn up in strange places. Turn up means appear. Okay, let's move on to the next example. Here is another situation. I'm just waiting for the words to go up. Just give me a second here. But there was a speed control on this thing. Okay, here we go. Mary and John went to a party. This is another situation. And they were very surprised when they saw their friend Lisa at the party. So because Lisa appeared at the party as a surprise, we can say Lisa turned up at the party. They were surprised when Lisa turned up at the party, when she appeared by surprise at the party. How will you make a why question? Why? Why were they surprised? Why were they surprised when Lisa turned up, when Lisa appeared by surprise at the party? Why were they surprised when Lisa turned up at the party? And here's the answer. She was supposed to be working. They were surprised when she turned up at the party because Lisa was supposed to be working. They were surprised when she turned up at the party because Lisa was supposed to be working. Now here is an observation about that situation. Lisa should not have been at the party. That was bad. So, a lot of times when you say should not in the past, you're shaking your fingers at someone. You're bad. You're wrong. That's what we're doing with Lisa. She should not have been at the party. She shouldn't have. She shouldn't have. She shouldn't have been. She shouldn't have been at the party. She shouldn't have. She shouldn't have. She shouldn't have been. She shouldn't have been at the party. She shouldn't have been at the party. Okay, how do you make a little question at the end of that idea? She shouldn't have been at the party. How do you make a question that means, do you agree with me? Do you agree with my opinion? Because we're saying the negative, she should not have been, we have to make the do you agree with me question in the affirmative. Should she? Should she have? She shouldn't have been at the party. Should she have? Should she have? She shouldn't have been at the party. Should she have? She shouldn't have been at the party. Should she have? Okay, how will you agree with me? How will you tell me that's true? You're right. I agree with you. If you agree with me in this situation, you repeat the original answer. No. No, she shouldn't. No, she shouldn't have. She shouldn't have been at the party. Should she have? No, she shouldn't have. I agree with you. No, she shouldn't have been at the party. I agree with you. No, she shouldn't have. No, she shouldn't have. No, she shouldn't have. No, she shouldn't have. Unfortunately, there are many ways to pronounce that, and they're all very common. Okay, let's take that same idea. She shouldn't have been at the party. Should she have? What if you want to tell me that's not true? You're wrong. I disagree with your opinion. Then you say the opposite of the original idea. You say, so if I say she shouldn't have, you say, yes, she should. What are you talking about? Yes, she should. That's okay. She can go to the party. Yeah, she should have been at the party. That was fine. She shouldn't have been at the party. Should she have? You're wrong. She should have. So you say the opposite of the original idea. All right, so John and Mary were surprised when Lisa turned up at the party, when she appeared by surprise at the party. They were surprised when Lisa turned up at the party because she was supposed to be working. She shouldn't have been at the party. Should she have? No. No, she shouldn't have. You're right. That's true. I agree with you. All right, let's move on to our next turn, which is another phrasal verb, and that is turn out. Again, you have to keep in mind that phrasal verbs can mean many different things. It depends on the context. So I'm just talking about one way to use turn out, which means surprise result, surprise finish, surprise ending. Let's practice how to use the phrasal verb turn out when it means surprise ending, surprise finish. Mary and John, my dog is making weird noises in the background. Gizmo, come over here. Come here. He does that when he's trying to get comfortable. He starts scratching the floor, but it's making a lot of noise. Okay. So let's practice using turn out, which means surprise finish, surprise result, surprise ending. Let's see. Mary and John were depressed because they moved to a small town and they thought it was very boring. They thought it was going to be very boring. But after they lived there for some time, for a little time, they discovered that wasn't true. Actually, the little town was very exciting. Okay, we can use turn out here because at first they believed the town would be boring, but it turned out to be exciting. Surprise ending, it was exciting. And so here, let's see, what is our sentence? They thought it was boring, but they were wrong. It was exciting. It turned out to be exciting. Give me a second, I'm lost. I'm lost in the middle of my notes here. Wait, where did I go? Okay. So, the sentence is, they thought it was boring, but they were wrong. My idea is, they were wrong. They were wrong. That's my opinion. How will you make a question with that? A yes, no question. Do you agree with me question. If my original idea is they were wrong, then if you want to make a do you agree with me question, you have to say weren't they. You have to use the negative question because the original idea is in the affirmative. They were wrong, weren't they? How will you agree with that? What if you want to tell me that's true, I agree with you? They were wrong, weren't they? Yes, they were. You repeat the original idea. They were wrong, weren't they? I agree with you. They were wrong. Yes, they were. What if you disagree with me? If I say they were wrong, weren't they? How would you tell me that's not true? I disagree with your opinion. No, they weren't wrong. It was boring. They thought the town was boring, but they were wrong, weren't they? No, they weren't wrong. It is boring. All right, let's see. They thought the small town was boring. They were wrong, weren't they? Yes, you're right. They were wrong. It actually was an exciting place. It turned out, the town turned out to be an exciting place. Turn out means surprise ending. Originally they thought boring. Now they think it's exciting. Okay, let's try another example. Practicing how to use turn out. Mary was very excited about her new job, her job interview. And it was a big company, and she wanted to impress the interviewer. So she went and she bought a very expensive, fancy, formal outfit. A very formal suit. But when she arrived at the interview, she discovered everyone was wearing jeans and t-shirts. And she felt ridiculous in her very expensive outfit. She thought the interview would be formal, but it turned out to be the opposite. Surprise ending. It turned out to be the opposite. Casual. Casual is the opposite of formal. She thought the interview would be formal, but it turned out to be casual. Surprise ending. Turned out. Surprise finish. Turned out. Let's make a what should Mary do question in the past. What should she have done before? What should she have done before the interview? What should she have done? What should she have done? What should she have done before the interview? What should she have done? What should she have done before the interview? And here's the answer. Research. More research. She should have done more research. She should have done more research. How can you put a little question at the end of that means, do you agree with my opinion? Do you agree with my idea that she should have done more research? Because the original idea is in the affirmative, you have to make the question, the do you agree with me question, in the negative. Shouldn't she? Shouldn't she have? Shouldn't she have? Shouldn't she have? She should have done more research. Shouldn't she have? Okay, how would you agree with me? How would you tell me, oh, I agree with your opinion. I like your opinion. That's true. She should have done more research. Shouldn't she have? Repeat the original idea if you agree with me. Yes, she should have. Yes, I agree with you. She should have done more research. Yes, she should have. Yes, she should have. Yes, she should have. She should have done more research, shouldn't she have? Yeah, she should have. You're right. I agree. Okay, let's take that same example. She should have done more research. Shouldn't she have? How will you disagree with me? How will you tell me, no, that's not true, you're wrong? If you disagree with me, say the opposite of my original idea. She should have done more research. Shouldn't she have? No. No, she should not. No, she shouldn't have. No, she shouldn't have. No, she shouldn't have. No, you're wrong. She shouldn't have. She should have. Shouldn't she have? No, she shouldn't have. No, that's not true. You're not right. No, she shouldn't have. So Mary dressed formally for her interview, but the interview turned out to be casual. It was a surprise ending, a surprise finish. And she should have done more research, shouldn't she have? Yes, she should have. Yeah, that's true. She should have done more research because she felt a little bit foolish. Her face turned as red as a beet, to use an expression that we've already done. All right, let's move on to our next turn phrase, which is turn down. And like all phrasal verbs, this could mean several things. But we are going to use turn down to mean to reject or refuse a good offer, a nice offer. When you say refuse an offer or reject an offer, we don't know if it's a really good offer or a bad offer. Maybe you're rejecting it because it's bad. But when you use turn down, the phrasal verb turn down, it sounds like it's a pretty good offer, a pretty good deal, something good. But for some reason, you don't like it. So you reject it, but not because it's bad. You reject it because of some other reason, some other little reason, or maybe a big reason. But it's a good idea. Maybe not enough money or something like that. So let's see how we can use it. Here's a situation. Mary was in a meeting and she made a proposal. It was a very good proposal. Everybody liked the proposal. But at the end of the meeting, they rejected Mary's proposal. They liked it, but there was some reason why it wasn't possible. So they said, no, thank you. We don't want it. It's good, but we don't want it. We can say they turned down Mary's proposal. They turned down her proposal. They rejected it. There was nothing wrong with it. It was a good idea, but no thanks. They turned down her proposal. Turn down is a separable phrasal verb, and that means you can put the object inside the verb. Can you do the inside position? How would you do the inside position of they turned down her proposal? They turned her proposal down. Turned her. They turned her proposal down. They turned her proposal down. All right, let's make a why question. Why? Why did they? Why did they? Why did they turn? Why did they turn her? Why did they turn her? Why did they turn her proposal down? And here's the reason. It was too expensive. They turned her proposal down. They turned her proposal down because it was. They turned her proposal down because it was too expensive. Now, let's see. Let's give Mary some advice. How would you say she should consider the cost more in the past? She should consider the cost more carefully in the past. Can you say that in the past? She should consider the cost more carefully. She should have. She should have. She shoulda. She should have considered the cost more carefully. She should have considered the cost more carefully. Okay, that's our opinion, our observation. We think that's a good idea. How will you make a do you agree with me question? A little question at the end that means, do you agree with my opinion? She should have considered the cost more carefully. Shouldn't she have? Because the original idea is in the affirmative, our little question at the end, our little tag question, should be in the negative. She should have considered the cost more carefully. Shouldn't she have? Shouldn't she have? She should have considered the cost more carefully. Shouldn't she have? How will you agree with me? How will you tell me, oh, you're right, that's true, I agree with you? You repeat the original idea. My original opinion, my original idea is she should have considered. So if you agree, you say, yes, she should have. Yes, that's true, she should have. She should have considered the cost. Shouldn't she have? Yes, that's true, she should have. I agree with you. Yes, she should have. Yes, she should have. Okay, what if you disagree with me? If we say she should have considered the cost more carefully, and you want to tell me, oh, no, that's not true. I don't agree. Then you must say the opposite. You must tell me, no, she shouldn't have. She should have agreed with the cost. She should have. I'm getting tired. I'm getting things mixed up now. We're almost finished. One more turn, and then we're finished. Okay, let's start over. So she should have considered the cost more carefully. Shouldn't she have? Tell me no, that's not true. I disagree with you. No, you say the opposite. You say the negative. No, she shouldn't have. That's not true. She shouldn't have considered the cost. She shouldn't have considered the cost more carefully. Should she have? She should have considered the cost more carefully. Shouldn't she have? No, she shouldn't have. That's not true. I disagree with you. All right, let's move on to our... Oh, wait a minute. I don't know if we have another... I think we have another turn down first. Okay. So the other people in the meeting turned down her proposal. They refused it. They said they can't do it because it's a good idea, but we just don't have enough money. So it's not a rejection. It's not personal. It's a good idea, but they said, nah, no thanks. They turned it down because it was too expensive. All right, let's try another example using turn down, meaning refuse something good. Here is a situation. John is applying to an important university. He wants to be a student at a very big, important university, and he sent an application, and he's waiting in the mail for their reply to see if they will accept him. He's a very good student, and he has a very good record. So he was disappointed when he received a rejection letter in the mail. Now, it wasn't a bad application. He's a good student. But they had better students, maybe. Hopefully that's the reason why he was rejected, was because they had better students, but you never know. So they rejected his application. They turned him down. We can say they turned him down. He wasn't a bad candidate, but there were better ones. It wasn't personal. Or we can say they turned down his application. They turned his application down. You can say it both ways. It's a separable phrasal verb. Can you make a why turn down application question? Why? Why did they? Why did they turn down? Why did they turn down his application? Why did they reject it? Why did they say no? Why did they turn down his application? And here's the reason. It wasn't competitive enough. His application wasn't competitive enough. They turned him down because his application wasn't competitive enough. So let's make a suggestion with this idea. Let's say he should participate in more, and we've got a really big word here coming. He should participate in more extracurricular activities. Extracurricular means outside of class. So joining clubs or volunteering to do some kind of work, something to make him special. Extracurricular means not in the schedule of the school. So maybe it's an after-school club or volunteering somewhere. That's an extracurricular activity. He should participate in more extracurricular activities. Can you change that into the past? How will you change that sentence into the past? He should participate in more extracurricular activities. He should have. He should have participated. He should have participated. He should have participated in more. He should have participated in more extracurricular activities. Okay, that's pretty hard to say. He should have participated in more extracurricular activities. How will you put a question at the end of that that means, don't you agree with me? Don't you think that's a good idea? If the original idea is in the affirmative, he should have participated. then the "don't you agree with me" question should be in the affirmative, or in the negative. He should have participated in more extracurricular activities. Shouldn't he have? Shouldn't he have? He should have participated in more extracurricular activities. Shouldn't he have? Shouldn't he have? Shouldn't he have? Shouldn't he have? He should have participated in more extracurricular activities. Shouldn't he have? How do you agree with me? How do you say, I agree with you? I think your opinion is right. Your idea is right. If you agree with me in this situation, you repeat the original idea. He should have participated more. Yes, he should have. Yes, that's true. He should have. He should have participated more. Shouldn't he have? Yes, I agree. That's true. He should have. Yes, he should have. Yes, he should have. Yeah, he should have participated more. Now let's take that same idea. He should have participated more in extracurricular activities. Shouldn't he have? How do you tell me, oh, that's not true, you're wrong, I don't agree with you? You say the opposite of the original idea. The original idea is, he should have participated. Tell me the opposite. Tell me the negative. No, he shouldn't have. He should have participated in extracurricular activities. Shouldn't he have? No, he shouldn't have. You're wrong. I disagree with you. All right, so he was turned down by the university. He was rejected by the university because his application wasn't competitive enough. He should have participated in more extracurricular activities. Shouldn't he have? Yeah, I agree with you. He should have. That's true. You're right. Alrighty. We've got one more turn, and then I'm done. I'm tired today. I think I made too many videos today, and my voice is dying. Okay. Our final phrasal verb for today is turn into. By the way, if you're not counting, that was 9. I thought there would be 10. But I decided one of them was too boring to use, so we didn't do it. So it's really 9. In case you're angry with me, in case you're counting. You're probably not, but just in case you are. This is number 9, not number 10. Okay, this phrasal verb, turn into, is pretty common, and it means to become or to change, to change from one thing to another thing, to transform. It's pretty common. It's a pretty common phrasal verb. Let's practice using turn into in sentences. Here's a real-life situation that surprised me. I grew up in a very small village of 2,000 people, which I guess is small because, you know, sometimes I talk to people in China and they say, oh, I live in a small town. And I say, well, how many people live in your town? 1 million. And I say, you think that's small? 1 million? That's not small. So it's relative, but to me, 2,000 is pretty small. Technically, that's a village. That's not even a city or a town. It goes village, town, city. So I grew up in a village of about 2,000 people, and recently, for some reason, I happened to see the population in that town, in that city, and now it's 40,000 people, which really surprised me because it was such a tiny little place before. All right, so it transformed from a village to a town, or it turned into a town. That's what you would say. Probably you wouldn't say transform. You would say it turned into a town. My little village, over the years, my little village turned into a town. Let's make a why turn into town question. Why? Why did it? Why did it? Why did it? Why did it turn into? Why did it turn into a town? Why did it turn into a town over the years? And the reason is because it's very close to a large city. It turned into a town because it's very close to a large city. Okay, now let's make an observation about this. That is a big change. That, you can say, wow, that's a big change. That's a big change. It's just an observation. That's a big change. How do you put a little question at the end of that, meaning, don't you agree with me? Don't you think that's true? That's a big change. That's in the affirmative, so our question would be in the negative. And normally you don't make these questions with the word that, so you would say it, isn't it? That's a big change, isn't it? That's a big change, isn't it? That's a big change. Don't you agree with me? If you agree with me, if you want to say that you agree with me, that's true. You repeat my original idea. My original idea is that's a big change. So you say yes. Yes, it is. Yes, it is a big change. That's a big change, isn't it? I agree. It is a big change. Okay, let's do the same observation. That's a big change, isn't it? And tell me no. What are you talking about? That's not a big change. I don't agree with you. That's not true. That's a big change, isn't it? No, it's not a big change. My original idea is in the affirmative, so if you disagree, you have to use the negative. No, it's not. It's not a big change. That's a big change, isn't it? It's not a big change. My little village turned into a medium-sized town. That's a big change, isn't it? It's not a big change. That's nothing. Okay, let's try another example using the phrasal verb turn into, which means change or transformation. Here's the situation. John and Lisa are very good friends, but over time they started to develop a romantic relationship. So their relationship changed from friendship to romantic relationship. How can we say transform? Change from one thing to another thing using turn into. Their friendship turned into a romantic relationship. Turned into a. Their friendship turned into a. Their friendship turned into a romantic relationship. It changed from one thing to another thing. Let's make a over how much time question. Over how much time did their friendship, over how much time did their friendship turn into, over how much time did their friendship turn into a romantic relationship? Over how much time did their friendship turn into a romantic relationship? And here's the answer. Over a few years. Over a few years. Their friendship turned into a romantic relationship over a few years. Okay, now let's make an observation about that. Oh, wow, that's a long time. 2 years? That's a long time. Now, how do you put a little question at the end of that observation that means, do you agree with me? That's a long time. That's in the affirmative, so our question will be in the negative. That's a long time, isn't it? That's a long time, isn't it? 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 In the UK, they say, isn't it? They're famous for that. Isn't it? That's what they say. They don't even use an S. They just say, isn't it? That's a long time, isn't it? I think you should say the S, though. That's a long time, isn't it? That's a long time, isn't it? How do you agree with me? If you want to agree with me and say, oh, that's true, I agree with you. If you agree with me, you repeat my original idea. My original idea is, that's a long time. So you say, yes, that's true. It is a long time. Yes, it is. That's a long time, isn't it? It is. I agree. Yes, it is. That's a long time, isn't it? You're right. Yes, it is. Yes, it is a long time. Okay, let's take that same idea. That's a long time, isn't it? How do you disagree? How do you tell me, oh no, you're wrong. That's not true. That's a long time, isn't it? No, it isn't. You say the opposite of the original idea. If I say the affirmative, that's a long time. You tell me no, you tell me the negative. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's not a long time. That's a long time, isn't it? No, it isn't. That's not a long time. All right, so their friendship changed, transformed into a romantic relationship. Their friendship turned into a romantic relationship over a few years. Ah, that's a long time, isn't it? No, it's not a long time. You're wrong. All right, well, that's the end for today. That's 9 ways, not 10. It's 9 ways of using turn in phrases and phrasal verbs. And thank you, everyone who stayed all this time in the English class and did the exercises with me. I really appreciate it. And I will see you next time with another class and more exercises to improve your listening, speaking, and fluency. I will see you later. Goodbye.